Hello, fifth graders. So, in order to keep up with finishing our book, I thought it would be nice, Scoutly now, if we read it together. So I'm going to do a read aloud. I'll read 2 chapters at a time. And I thought it'd be nice if we, got cozy and enjoyed this reading time together. So, as you can see, I am on the bed and I'm just gonna get comfortable with my needy dog right here, and I'm gonna start reading to you. So we're on chapter 29, and this is another graphic novel chapter. So I'm not gonna do a whole lot of like holding it up and showing you the pictures. I want you to follow along in your book while I read. Okay, so chapter 29 of Cape. What's happening? Look, it's coming. It's those caped kids from the newspaper. Never mind the Duke. I'm getting out of here. Where's the Duke? Whoopee! I wish Josie were here to see this. It's the wee 3. Look at them fly. I've got something. It's the Duke. He's thinking about lighting the dynamite and throwing it on the battleship. Where? How will he get more dynamite? He's thinking of hot dogs? The dynamite is hidden inside a hot dog cart with a dachshund on the front. A dachshund is like a wiener dog. It's kind of funny. How? And she knows what he's thinking because she has telepathy, remember? I see it, the hot dog cart. Get out of here, kiddies. This is no place for tiresome tykes. Take your ridiculous circus suits, super sprites, and go home to your toys. Let's be reasonable. Scram, you sleazy serpent. Ooh, big snake. We won't let you harm this ship or these people. Big, creepy reptile. Big doesn't begin to describe. The hisser. Gasp. So Akiko fell and they caught her. Scout, honey. Yeah, I can't let him hurt anyone else. You leave the orange one alone. Not Ma'am or Kay, Vinny or Lou or Emmett. Bam! It's farewell to you, Violet Vexation. Ouch! You'll pay, Emerald Annoyance. Take that, you oversized worm. I'll have my revenge, pesky pixie. That's a bad sign. Don't let him mesmerize you. Resist. Don't give up. So many depend on you. So look, Hantima's ghost is back. So she is like trying to help Josie. And Josie's looking into his eyes. And remember, they said don't look into his eyes because they were like hypnotizing. Hiss. Resist. Hantima wills it. Ah! The Hissler and his explosive plans are drenched. Oh, so she started a storm. That's good. She used her atmokinesis. Where's our orange friend? Eek! The hisser! Watch out! We'll find her, but in the meantime, we can't let him destroy the battleship. Never underestimate the power of your enemy. When we're done here, we've got to get over to the Moore School. If this repulsive reptile catches on about Cousin Kay and the computers, they'll need our help. We can't let Project PX fall into the wrong hands. Ha ha, green garbage, or fall into the wrong fangs. He must have heard him. I'll block him, you knock him. 3 strikes and you're out. That's for the stretcher, wham. That's for the fire, wham. And that's for Emmett. So, who does she think that the hisser is? Brats! Crack. I'm too weak. I must leave you. Don't give up. Plug your ears. He'll make us deaf. Where did he go? He's gone. I can't believe it. Did we defeat the hisser? We didn't take down the hisser. Instead, he's taken one of us. He's got Akiko. Chapter 30. We flew over the city for what must have been hours, searching for Akiko down every street, sidewalk, and alley we could find. Each time we spotted even a hint of orange below us, May and I swooped closer to investigate. She must be unconscious, May said, or else I'd be able to use telepathy to read her mind and learn what's happening. The hisser must have whisked her away to his hiding spot, I said, feeling heavy with worry. We've got to figure out where that is. I bet he's locked Emmett there, too. I was mindful of the sun dipping below the horizon on our right. With the war on, the city was under a blackout order. Businesses, homes, streets, everyone had to turn their lights out for the night. With each passing minute, our chances of finding Akiko and Emmett were slipping away. And we've got to find the hisser before he strikes again, May said, her usually upbeat voice replaced by a quiet sadness. He could be anywhere. We flew on in silence, the only sounds the wind whipping in our ears and our capes snapping behind us. Let's go over it all one more time, I began, though I could tell May was growing frustrated. Where else would the hisser plan to strike? We've flown past the ammunition factory 3 times, past Independence Hall, and the Liberty Bell twice, and we've even checked on the battleship again. There's no sign of the hisser or the Duke. At least your cousin Kay's building has been quiet, May added. All 4 times we checked it. I don't think the hisser knows about Project PX and what the human computers are doing there. At least not yet. I thought about that blonde woman, Ursula, whom we'd seen with the Duke. What secrets had she already spilled? And what had they both passed along to the hisser? My heart was in my throat, making it hard to speak anymore. There was evil moving about the city, evil that could hurt hundreds, if not thousands of innocent lives, including the people I loved. And we had no idea how to stop it. Where was Miss B when we needed her? And why did Hauntima have to leave us? I tried to work out the answers on my own, but I was growing angrier by the minute. We were just kids. We could use some help from real superheroes like Hopscotch or Nova the Sun Chaser, not just some ghosts. And where was Zenobia and her sister at the Palomino? Had they all abandoned us? Had they all really quit? Come on, I said, adjusting my mask and plunging toward the rooftop of a building below. Let's go back to my apartment before our arms fall off. We need to sit down and think things through. May agreed, saying she'd never felt more tired. But I know I won't sleep tonight. Not when we need to solve the most important puzzle of our lives. We landed on the roof of my building and transformed back to our usual selves in the snap of a finger. Slipping down the fire escape, we managed to climb through an open window and into the kitchen of my apartment without getting caught. The radio was playing as Ma'am emerged from the bathroom, tying a scarf around her hair. She greeted us as she passed by, rushing to get ready before heading off to another night shift at the shipyard factory. I didn't hear you girls come in, she said, throwing a curious look at the usually squeaky apartment door. But thankfully, she was too busy to ask questions, focusing instead on the clutter we kids had left everywhere. Where's your friend, the sniffly one? Akiko? I asked, trying to sound cheerful, though my heart was breaking. I winced at the thought of her out there in the city somewhere, like Emmett, in the clutches of the horrible hisser. She couldn't come, she got held up a bit. But I was hoping May could spend the night again. We're making real progress on that puzzler research. If it's okay with May's grandmother, can she stay? Ma'am gave me a questioning look. Let's go down and call her together, shall we? We asked. Boys, I'm making a telephone call downstairs to the phone booth in Mr. Hunter's barber shop. I'll be right back. May and I trailed after Mom, making silent faces and wild gestures about what Granny Crumpler would say when she heard from my mother. May tugged on her curls, whispering that a loud no was coming. I held out hope that my mother might win her over. What else could we do? While Ma'am stood in the telephone booth and talked to May's granny, May and I found ourselves face to face with the horrible Toby Hunter's equally horrible father. He was a whiskered version of his bullying son. Mr. Hunter ran his barber shop on the first floor and lived above it in the apartment on the second floor, right below ours. Haven't seen you in a while, Miss O'Malley, he said, and I knew he called me that because he couldn't remember my first name. But I've heard a great deal of you. You walk like an elephant, you and your mother and your brothers too, a whole pride of elephants. Heard, said May softly. Sir, lions travel in a pride, elephants in a herd, hummingbirds in a charm. Mr. Hunter glared at us. My son knows all that, he began. He's the smartest kid in his class, toughest too, like his old man. Immediately, my bike jumped to Toby, his team of bullies, and the stolen bikes. I winked at May and started a new conversation, making sure my voice was loud enough for Mr. Hunter to catch every word. Oh, May, did you hear? They've got extra patrolmen out to catch those bike thieves. Seems the chief of police's kids had their bikes stolen just last week. Can you imagine the trouble that somebody's going to face when they get caught for all those stolen bikes? "It's never a good idea to steal from the police, is it?" said May, with a nervous chuckle. "That doesn't sound too bright." I peeked over at Mr. Hunter, who was staring at me and cleaning his scissors. I wasn't exactly sure what my plan was to get Toby to return my brother's bikes, but I figured it probably took big talk to intimidate a bully. Suddenly, Ma'am was pushing out of the phone booth and beaming at May. "Your delightful grandmother says yes," she said, "and she knows my dear friend Millie, who's a librarian across town. What a small world." As we climbed back down the stairs, Ma'am was saying something about Spam hash for dinner and bedtime for the boys. I could barely focus on any of it. My thoughts were on Akiko and Emmett and where they would sleep tonight. "Pardon me, Miss O'Malley," said May, timidly taking a step forward. "I apologize for being so bold, but we were hoping to visit with Cousin Kay. Do you happen to know what time she's coming home?" Ma'am smiled and shook her head, stepping into our apartment. "I'd love to catch up with Kay myself, dear, but I don't think we'll see much of her this week. She said something about a new project she's been placed on. Called it important, I think." Project PX. May and I looked at each other knowingly. "Two things before I go," Ma'am said, taking both my hands in hers. "First is that the boys and I saw the most remarkable thing at the shipyard. We were at the dedication ceremony for the new battleship, and 3 superheroes were fighting what seemed to be a supervillain, a real viper. It's been years. Your brothers can tell you about it. But Josie," she said, looking deep into my eyes with that familiar sadness, "that terrible viper. I can't bear to think of any harm coming to you or the boys. Please be safe. No trouble." And she kissed my forehead. "I get it, Ma'am. I really do," I said, choking the words out. I wanted to move us off the topic of superheroes as quickly as I could. "What else? You said 2 things." "Right," she continued. "Mr. Hunter's son stopped by an hour or so ago. That Toby boy. He said something about wanting to talk to you. Vinny and Baby Lou looked upset by the mere sight of him. Is everything okay?" Panic surged through my veins, and I couldn't help but look at my little brothers. Toby had been here, inside of our apartment. He'd been acting like he knew about the telegram. What if he knew Ma'am's secret? Our secret? I wanted to grab my family and flee to someplace where we wouldn't have to deal with these mean people. With one more quick hug and kisses blown to my little brothers in the living room, Ma'am left for work. "We're playing a game," announced Baby Lou as he bounced over to us. "I'm winning, but I think Vinny might be letting me. I can tell he's paying attention to the radio report more than our Parachisi." "May and I are going to sit down for some dinner. Want to join us?" I said, knowing he and Vinny would stay as far away from Spam hash as they possibly could. Baby Lou scampered back to the living room and tackled Vinny. And as May and I headed for the kitchen, we could hear them wrestling and knocking into the coffee table. "We don't have to do this," I said, as I scooped Ma'am's dinner onto our plates. Though the Spam smelled disgusting, I was too hungry and tired to care. We're just kids, after all. We could leave this work to somebody else, somebody bigger or older or... I let my voice trail off, because I knew quitting wasn't the right option. When the world needs a hero, that's what you become. Isn't that what Ma'am was always telling us? "I've been thinking about it," said May, politely moving the hash around her plate with a fork. "When things get really difficult, that's when it's most important to work harder and smarter. That's what matters most of all." Did your Granny Crumpler teach you that?" I asked in between bites. May shook her head. "No, that one's mine. I don't like to walk away from a fight. I don't go looking for them, that's for sure, but when the time comes, I'm not one to back down." We sat quietly and stared at our plates. My mind was focused on Akiko and Emmett, and I was sure May's was just the same. She picked at her food but didn't take a bite. I couldn't blame her. I lifted a mound of the Spam hash towards my nose, but the smell made me drop my fork and push my plate to the side. I lost my appetite. The radio in the dining room was always playing these days, so I'd hardly paid attention to it earlier. But now the latest report from Europe reached our ears. It was bad news. Nazi troop launched a deadly attack today. Explosions could be heard for miles around as Allied American and British forces suffered heavy losses. Heavy losses. That meant soldiers were wounded or dying. Immediately I thought of my dad and felt a sob catch in my throat. I looked across at May and saw her bite her lip. I knew she was worrying about her father too. For all of us sitting by our radios in houses and apartments across the country and around the world, loved ones were fighting on beaches and battleships 1,000 miles away from us. But they were never, ever far from our thoughts.